everyone. My name is Erin Crayson, and I am PACO's PR Committee Chair. On behalf of PACO, I want to extend a warm welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for coming. I want to take this opportunity to give thanks to the people who made this event possible. First, I want to thank PACO's board. Thank you for your support. I also want to thank the outstanding PR committee, including Kara Hine, Hannah Harris, Kemily Kwok, Garth Robotham, Kristen Gibson, Allison North, and Mindy Schaefer. These paralegals truly went above and beyond to make this event possible, on top of juggling their full-time jobs. So thank you very much. Please give them a round of applause. I would also like to give special thanks to our event sponsors, Perez and Morris, Polling Law, the Noasis Group, Spectrum Reporting, and Key Evidence. Once upon a time, there was no such thing as a paralegal. There were attorneys with no paralegals on their staff. Just give a moment to shudder. Woo, woo. As many of you know, the career began forming in the late 1960s, and as far as professions go, we're fairly new. But in that small amount of time, paralegals have become imperative in law firms, corporations, nonprofits, and government organizations. More astounding to me is how the profession, despite being a primarily supportive role, has transformed into one filled with leaders. And that's exactly why we're here today, to celebrate the leaders that are in our profession, who exercise their leadership skills both in the workplace and in our community. When in the early stages of planning this event, the PR committee immediately thought of asking Alan Mycovey. We thought he would be a great keynote speaker because he is an excellent example of this leadership. He is not only supportive to his attorneys in his work at Kimberly-Clark, but he is also a leader in his role as NFPA Vice President and Director of Profession Development. He came all the way from Texas to be here, so please give him a howdy. Hey, come on, Alan, come up here. Thank you.
So hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Now, as Erin mentioned, I am from Texas, if you couldn't tell by the accent already. So we're going to play a game. Every time I say PACO instead of PACO, write it down. And I'll figure out something to give the winner of that. But I would like to thank Erin, Mindy, and PACO for inviting me to celebrate Paralegal Day with you. As a member of NFPA, it's important to us that we maintain close contact with our local member associations through events such as this. And besides, why wouldn't I like to celebrate Paralegal Day, being a paralegal myself? So as a member of NFPA's board, I've long admired PACO for everything that you've done and the leadership that you've demonstrated not just here in Ohio, but at the national level. And for those who are members of PACO, you have a lot to be proud of, which we'll discuss in just a few minutes. I understand that there may be some attorneys in the audience as well. If you're an attorney, please raise your hand. So I'd like to thank you guys for attending and helping celebrate as well, because again, let's face it, without you, we wouldn't be here because we wouldn't have jobs. We wouldn't have people to support. But thank you for your contributions to the legal profession as well. So in my many years as a paralegal, and I do realize I'm starting to become one of those paralegals who speaks of nowadays and back in my days, so I will give a confession. I do remember big box litigation when we'd have to wheel into the courthouse 50 boxes of paper in order to have a trial. And I also remember what a Bates labeler is. I'm glad to say that our Bates labeler is now retired to a museum in our law department and that we know the use of modern technology. And I also remember taking the trips to the financial printer for an initial public offering working in the securities field. Now, if you've worked in this field before, you'll understand what I'm about to say, but for our litigators and other practitioners, it involves many hours of work. You go to a financial printer and you will be there wearing the same set of clothes for about 6 to 7 days, working around the clock. At the end of this, they put the paralegal on a plane. You fly to DC in order to get 11 copies filed, 11 copies, not 10, but 11 copies filed. So all this hard work you spend, you go hand it to them, stamp, 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 throw it in the pile. Next. Okay. My 5 weeks worth of work, but okay, I'm good with that. One of the nuggets of wisdom I've learned is that when working with attorneys, if we paralegals don't look good, you don't look good. Or wait, I got that wrong, didn't I? So if you attorneys don't look good, we don't look good. That's it. But I think you guys get what I'm talking about. So the attorney-paralegal team is a unique dynamic that's built on trust, mutual respect, and overall a love of the legal profession. So in that vein, while we're here to celebrate Ohio paralegals and their contribution to the Ohio legal profession, which are many, I'd like to share with you a few of my thoughts on the paralegals' contributions to and our role on the attorney-paralegal team. So in our time together, I'd like to discuss the context of pro bono, continuing legal education, and leadership. And I promise I won't be preaching at you. I will try to make this funny, and if not, humor me. Also during this presentation, I will be using several examples of current PACO members for whom I have changed the name to protect the innocent or the guilty, as the case may be, and also from my own embellishments and use of my artistic license. Our President Kennedy once described the Peace Corps as the toughest job we'll ever love, and I think the same can be said for the paralegal profession. Again, going back to the days of yesteryear, how many of you remember the days of document production, sitting in a room with a bare bulb hanging overhead, reviewing document after document after document that could be crumbling in your hands and trying to get the work done because there was no air conditioning? Well, since then, we've moved on to sitting in front of our computers, reviewing gigabytes of data, risking repetitive motion injuries by pushing the button, but still using our paralegal skills to make sure that we call out the documents that we need to, or that we actually summarize the documents that are contained in there. And we have air conditioning now, too. Let's not forget that. And of course, all legal professionals face those days when you have those demanding clients constantly calling you. And I can say that because working as an in-house paralegal, I am one of those demanding clients. But we don't do it on purpose, really. So one of the reasons that PACO stands out to me is because of your dedication to pro bono service. When I first became a member of NFPA, I remembered reading various stories about this phenomenal, outstanding paralegal from Ohio who dedicated much of her life and her time to working on a pro bono legal wills clinic. And as I got to read more and more about this person, she became somebody I very much admired. And across the nation, she's become the model and the epitome for what other associations hope to achieve with pro bono. I definitely think the world could use more of this paralegal, and by now you all know who I'm talking about, but I promised her I wouldn't use her name to protect, in this case, the innocent. NFPA, as you may know, I know the paralegals here should know, but the attorneys may not know that we've embodied in our code of ethics that we should aspire to achieve at least 24 hours of pro bono each year, which is similar to the ABA's model rules where you're supposed to get 50 hours. Now, clearly, that's a little stretch for we paralegals, but we still think it's important enough that we built in 24 hours into our code of ethics. So why should we be worried about working with pro bono? One of the items that I've learned is that it helps to strengthen the attorney-paralegal bond when you work together at a pro bono clinic. I've had a couple of attorneys that were recently assigned to me, brand new attorneys out of law school, had no idea what a paralegal could do. So, of course, coming upon the unsuspecting attorneys, I invited them to come with me to a pro bono clinic. They showed up, and I was able to help them to understand what we paralegals can do. At the end of the day, they're like, wow, you can do that? I'm like, no, I'm just kind of your everyday paralegal, but there's people who can do a lot more than me, but just imagine what we can do if you work together with us. Another thing that's important for working in the pro bono context is that we paralegals get to see our attorneys in a different light. The hard-edged litigator that we hear yelling on the phone every day to protect his or her client's rights, we get to see turn on the other side and reach out with a soft hand to the widowed lady trying to get her estate settled. And likewise, the attorneys can see we, quiet, meek paralegals, become leaders within the pro bono clinics. We can direct you where to go, tell you which forms to use, and perform much of the same duties that we do day to day for you, but also in a different setting. So as an in-house paralegal, I run into almost every aspect of the law you can imagine. I've been volunteering at a general practice pro bono clinic, and I learned of this convention called a QDRO, or a quadro. And I just like saying that word, so I have to say it a couple times. Quadro, quadro, quadro. So lo and behold, working at my job as the sole attorney for a general counsel, the next week we got hit with a quadro. And he looks at me and says, "What's this?" I'm like, "We better get outside counsel, but it's called a quadro." So in the legal profession, we do face the daunting task of representing our clients diligently, professionally, and in an ethical manner, but some days we may catch ourselves wondering, why are we doing this? At the end of the day, we may be suffering from some level of burnout, and if we haven't discovered it, there's a great therapeutic effect for working for those in need who can't really pay us for their services. For me, there's no greater reward than sitting across the table from a pro bono client, them reaching out with tears in their eyes, shaking my hand and saying, "I can't believe you spent your Saturday coming out to help me. Thank you for that." And in giving us that thank you, that is one of the highest prized rewards I could ever get, because that's the best they have to offer. There's no money for them to give, but that is the best and most deepest sense of gratitude that they have. So many of us have taken different paths to becoming paralegals. Some have on-the-job training, some have certificates, some have bachelor's degrees, and it seems that there's a growing trend towards this Master of Jurisprudence degree. I am currently pursuing my Master of Jurisprudence from Loyola University School of Law in Chicago, and as a practicing area in the field of business law, I'm thinking, I got this. No worries. Boy, was I wrong. Will Durant tells us that education is a progressive discovery of our own ignorance. Just when we start thinking in the law we understand something completely, there's another hill to go over in order to help us to better serve our clients. So I have chosen to embrace my ignorance. I own it. And so in order to combat that, I will attend CLE. So another introduction I had to PACO is from a prolific Facebook poster. Now, let me back up for a second and let you know this is also a moniker that I've been given. On the average day on my Facebook site, I probably post anywhere from 30 to 60 posts. Now, these posts aren't just kitties saying hello, they're not just me saying hello, but they're substantive articles dealing with changes in the law, or it's some closing of a Secretary of State, and items such as that can better help paralegals in their daily functions. I happened to stumble across one of the PACO members, and I was like, wow, wow, wow. Who is this wonderful woman, and how is she keeping up with me? You see, I have a case of bad insomnia, so I probably get an hour of 4 hours sleep. So when I'm not sleeping, I'm normally on Facebook. But this woman kept up with me. So I'm happy to say that she and I became virtual friends, and I had the privilege of meeting her recently, and I'm privileged not just to have her as a colleague, but now I can truly call her a friend. And I can steal some of her ideas for getting posts for Facebook. I'm sorry, borrow. So one of the common concerns that I've noticed among my colleagues is that employers and supervising attorneys don't seem to understand the importance of paralegal continuing legal education. So on a team, I think there's a lot of give and take. And I think if we're going to say this of attorneys, we also need to own up to the fact, what are we doing to prove that need to our attorneys? Do we just sit back and expect them to know they need to write a check for $20 so that we can go to this CLE? Or are we actually going to go and make a business case for them so they understand the importance of our attending? As an example, as I'm headed out to the door to attend one of my local association CLE, my attorney will stop me with the rush project and say it's got to be done. So we quickly try to assess the situation. Will this be a fatal error if we don't get this done in the next hour and 20 minutes? Or is this something that can wait for an hour and 20 minutes and we can come back? So normally we can work something out. Obviously, if it's a fatal error, you know I'm going to stay there and work feverishly to get this done. But if there's room for movement of the timeline, then I ask the attorney, so if you let me go to this hour CLE, by the time I come back, I will be able to not just recoup that hour for you, but I will be able to increase my billable hours for you, increase the white space that you have to free you up to do the things I can't do, which is practice law. And at the core of it, that's what we paralegals' role is to do, free up the attorneys so that they can practice law. And in just a few minutes, I will give you an example of how the economics works out. But I'd like to take a quick diversion about the importance of continuing legal education for certification. Hopefully everybody in the room has heard of the OSBA Certified Paralegal or NFPA's Registered Paralegal. So for the attorneys, I'd like to let you know, again, I am a client, so one of my jobs is to review billings. When I start going through billings, I look at a paralegal who's billing me out at $275, look over and I see a certification on that. I understand what went behind that certification. So in that case, I'm still going to review your bills to make sure it's in line with it, but I'm going to give you a little bit more leeway because, again, this is an extrinsic mark for I know what you've achieved. It's hard for me to look at a piece of paper with the name on it, first initial, last name, 0.6 hours, $275. How do I go back to my supervising attorney and prove this up and say, yes, you should pay this? But I have a leg to stand on if I go back and say, this is an OSBA certified paralegal, and this is why my recommendation is to pay this. I have looked at their time billings. They are accurate. They are true. We should pay this bill. So in our attorney audience, I know that you guys recognize the importance of our attending CLE. And as I mentioned, there is a return on investment for you. One of the most fabulous paralegals I've ever met wrote a 7-page dissertation on the return on investment from attending a 1-hour CLE. She's also a CPA, so I won't go into all the details because I'm not a numbers person. I don't even remember my flights to get here, so I had to text Mindy to tell me. But as I understand it, so it's about $20, let's say, for you to attend, for your paralegal to attend a CLE, which includes the lunch. Your paralegal may bill out at about $165, so that's about $185 for the hour that the paralegal is going to be out. So during that time, the paralegal will be gaining extra skills, and in gaining those extra skills, you create that white space we talked about. So if your attorney bills out at $500 an hour, you've got that on the table. And then if the paralegal, his or herself, can go out and double your time to 2 to 3 times, let's use 2 times, for instance, and you bill out at $165, that's about $230. So you're $830 to the good versus your $165 investment for that 1 hour. So I think the math there is pretty compelling case for us to help consider letting us go to more CLE. And if that wasn't enough, the ABA, in their model guidelines for utilization of a paralegal, also highly encourages us to facilitate the paralegal's participation in appropriate continuing education activities. Now, I'm a big hockey fan, despite the Dallas Stars being eliminated in Game 7, which I will be talking to our associations over in St. Louis, but that's another matter. Those coaches want to field the best team that they can, and likewise, our attorneys want to field the best team that they can. And the way they do that is by making sure you have the best educated, most well-informed paralegals that you can have. I do have to say, I think that an often unexploited avenue of continuing legal education is on-the-job training. We work for the attorneys, and when it comes down to it, we work under your license, and you have the final say-so. We understand this. Trust me, many of the paralegals in this room value your license more so than you do because that's our means to obtaining our income. As I like to say, I've got to bring food home to my puppy one way or the other, and one of us has to have a license. So the on-the-job training can be something as simple as when we draft a document and turn it over to you, and you're obviously going to have a markup. I say obviously because I have yet to meet an attorney that will come back and just give me a document without a single markup. Sometimes we go right back to the original document, but that's another matter. So whenever you pull out that big red pen back in the day and mark it up with your surgical expertise, or nowadays you use your track changes, why not spend 10 to 15 minutes explaining to your paralegal why those changes were made? If it's something stylistic, it helps us to understand what your style is, so the next time we produce a document for you, it can be closer to perfect. Or if it's a matter of the law, then we'll better understand the law and how that may impact the work that we're doing for you. But similarly, we paralegals can also take it upon ourselves to ask our attorneys for a few minutes of their time to explain the changes. First time I ever did this with my attorney, she was floored. And I will flip back and forth because I have male and female attorneys, and I don't want you guys to think I'm sexist. So the first time she did the pleading for me and I got it back, I was floored. I mean, it was like, did not even recognize the complete document. I'm like, okay, maybe she should have just started all over by herself. So I ran the red line, went back, and I'm like, you know, there's a lot of changes to this. How about I take you to lunch? We sit down and run through these changes together. She's like, what? I was like, well, I would like to be a better paralegal for you, and this is the one of the ways I can do it. She's like, well, okay. So we go down, we sit down, we start going item by each and every one of her changes, which again were many. She explained most of them were stylistic, and there were a few pieces of the law, being an accidental litigator myself, that she had to explain to me. So as we worked together, eventually I was able to produce for her a pleading where she would have maybe 1 or 2 red marks on a page rather than coming back with a document that was totally marked up. Again, creating white space for the attorneys, educating me to be a better paralegal, and allowing me to take on more substantive responsibilities, and keeping me happy at the same time. I do think that formal CLE remains a vital component to a paralegal's education. Not only do we learn from sources outside of the firm, which is important, it also helps us to gain the experience with our peers. I always think there's a better way to build a mousetrap. I may form a corporation one way, I may talk to a colleague who forms it another and can save additional time in getting that done. And in addition, at a law firm, let's say that there's an average of 100 years of experience there. So if we take that 100 years, I'm able to network with my colleague over here, or we go to another law firm that's presenting the CLE and they have another 200 years, we've got 500 years of experience behind the product that I'm able to produce for you. So one of the other things I'd like to bring up as an example, as probably one of the best examples for this, is in Texas, we have mandatory e-filing. Lo and behold, I'm not sure we were 100% ready for this. Though I am told, another quick aside, that the definition of eternity is the time you press the submit button until you get the return receipt back from the court system. So in Texas, we had 5 designated providers, each of whom had their own system for doing e-filing. Subtle nuances to it, but each one of them had, in this case, free CLE, or you could go to the advanced CLE to learn what the nuances were. So we couldn't learn that just by going in-house. We had to share the knowledge with that particular company. Another thing I would like to encourage our attorneys to do, or our paralegals who encourage your attorneys to do, is to go to a CLE together. One of the CLEs that I went to at the very beginning stages of e-discovery, I went with a powerful litigator from a law firm called Jones Day. Woman scared me to death. Let me tell you. But she ended up being one of my favorite attorneys and probably one of the most training attorneys I've ever been to. So we sat at this e-discovery seminar, and they would bring up a point. In e-discovery, you worry about this. So we were able, okay, not the noisy kind, but quietly we passed notes back and forth, so as not to disturb the speaker. She said, if we ever hit this, this is what I would like you to do. And she would ask me questions likewise. So do we have this data map? Do you know where this is? And of course, I was able to say yes. We actually have 5 of these, and it goes here, here, and here. Okay, that's a good one. Remember that. So as we started working closer and closer together, and e-discovery became something that we did on a daily basis, we already had our de facto e-discovery plan in place. So she was able to go stand up in front of our managing team of attorneys to say, this is the benefit that you can get from working closely with your paralegal. So in her estimates, The time that we had spent there had saved her countless hours of time, and she started adding up our outside counsel bills. And according to her records, in one case, we were able to save about $250,000 by not having to outsource everything dealing with e-discovery. Incidentally, that's also how I discovered the evils of this thing called self-collection. Just don't do it. We paralegals are also sometimes required to function as ninjas. We work in the shadows without you understanding what we're doing, but we get the job done, and miraculously, a work product appears on your desk. As an example, a client calls you at 4:30 on a Friday and tells you that a lawsuit was filed against them, but the statute of limitation is running, and it's out that day. So you have 30 minutes to get your motion for continuance or whatever you'd care to file at that time. I promise you've never seen a paralegal move so fast in your life. One of my watershed moments was watching this happen to a paralegal friend of mine. Attorney walked in, said, "We've got to get this." "Okay, what is it?" "Yes." Keep going." So she's over here typing up the motion for continuance as he is speaking to her, gets it ready. She calls her admin and says, "I need you to get this ready to be submitted via e-file." So the attorney's like, "What just happened?" She said, "I saved your license. Reviews are next week." So we paralegals also functioned as shadow leaders to an extent as well. I never really thought about we paralegals as leaders on the job, but we are. And we're also fortunate that there are a multitude of ways to develop our leadership skills, from serving on our local boards to doing what I'm doing, serving on the national level. John Maxwell told us that leadership is not about titles, positions, or flowcharts. So on the job, we paralegals do serve leadership functions. If you think about it, the transactional paralegal runs the closing checklist, so we ensure that every single minute detail of the closing is attended to. We make sure we don't come up to the day of closing and we forget to have wiring instructions. We make sure that you haven't made 5 copies of a $5 billion note, making it a $10 billion transaction. And also, in the litigation context, we coordinate the volumes and volumes of discovery responses, ever keeping in mind those discovery dates, our attorneys' vacation plans to make sure that we plan around that, as well as firm holidays. So now, if you will, I'd like you to imagine a room filled with 6 people. These 6 people have A++ personalities. Each of these personalities are sticklers for details. They are extremely well organized, and they can draft a plain English board report in 5 minutes that would take the average human the work of Shakespeare to do. Yes, of course, I'm talking about a paralegal board. And if you haven't seen these people in action, it's a beauty to behold. So now imagine this dedicated group of professionals trying to collaborate on a paralegal association event. Now, you would think these dominating personalities would be stuck in endless negotiations and going back and forth. Yes, the napkins must be blue. They must be blue because it's Tuesday. No, that was last year. This year they must be red. But we don't. We do manage to get some very good events done. And speaking of which, I would like to give kudos to PACO and the planning committee for this great event. Even though we see an hour and a half's worth of time here, I guarantee you there's probably about 42 hours behind the scenes. So I would like to thank you for myself for this. So in our daily jobs, we get to use these leadership skills that we develop to a razor-sharp edge. The board negotiations that we learned working with our colleagues, we could also use to help with our clients. Yes, we really do need those documents. Yes, we understand you have to go to the lake house and climb up into the attic, and we're sorry for that, but we do need those documents. No, sir, I don't think the judge was kidding when she said that discovery was due by the 22nd or we face sanctions. She was pretty serious. Now, is there anything I can do to help you to get these documents done? And another soft skill that's vital but difficult to teach is communication. Now, as you know, attorneys have different communication styles. and I've been blessed to work with some really wonderful attorneys. But then again, what attorney is not wonderful? So in working on board with the boards of directors, I've worked with litigation paralegals, and again, I'm a corporate securities paralegal by trade. The language litigation paralegals speak is different to me. The language the intellectual property paralegals speak is different to me. So in learning how to present ideas and convey thoughts to them, it helps me in working with my attorneys. Now, as an example, I'm currently supporting 6 attorneys in our global world headquarters, and their communication styles are all over the page. I have one attorney that expects me to come up and say, Mindy, the issue is this. The facts are A, B, C. Our resolutions are 1, 2, 3. My recommendation is 3 because of this. And then she'll come back. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? Then go ahead and do what you said. And then, on the other side, I have another attorney who says, that's not going to work for me. Start with Hammurabi and bring me forward to where we are today. How did we find this client? Who is this client? What is the law behind this? So obviously, those take a little bit more preparation in getting in there. And I'm not saying that this is a good thing or it's a bad thing. It's just the way the attorney wants the information presented. And that's one of the skills we paralegals develop. We give you a work product so that you can do your jobs. I do also want to add that I have great respect for attorneys who actually ask your paralegals what your opinion is. I had this conversation again with a scary litigator and said, why don't you ask what my opinion is? She's like, okay, what's your opinion? Well, how about this? Well, okay, did you think about this? Did you think about this? Did you think about this? So we go through that. It's a training exercise. But I want to caution my paralegal colleagues before you broach the subject with your attorneys. This will come up at the most inopportune of times. You've got 2 senior partners fighting for that 1 to 2 o'clock slot on your schedule. You've got 3 motions for summary judgment that are due that day. And the attorney's going to pop in and said, what do you think we should do with this? Don't. But of course, we remain calm. Well, I think we should do X, Y, Z. What do you think? So it's a pretty good exercise. And in learning with this particular attorney what her style was, we would often get cases that would come in or projects, and I would be able to ghostwrite emails for her. So a client would come in and say, we're considering going into business in Cuba. Okay, so if you're going to do this, these are the things that she's going to want to know. And I would have a list of 30 things, forward it over to her, and she said what Ellen said. Just go out and get that stuff for me. So I'm like, okay, no problem. We can do this. So in the end, I do think that it's not the individuals who should look good, but the legal profession as a whole. Having said that, I am glad that we do have Paralegal Day celebrations. During the regular day, it's easy to forget the contributions of every single member of the legal team. Admins, case clerks, court runners, and of course, the timekeepers, paralegals. But we do know that our paralegals appreciate us. Again, our job is to provide the best quality services that we can to you. Paralegal Day helps us to remember that we are indeed a part of this paralegal attorney team. If you think about law firms, the way they've always been described to me is you have the attorney, well, at the top, of course, you have the named partners or equity partners, then you have the attorneys, then somewhere here in no man's land are the paralegal timekeepers, or the patent agents, and then we have the support staff. Not saying that anybody is more important than anybody, but in the scheme of things, if the senior partner comes to your office, I think you might want to do that work first. But I'm just saying. So it's again important that we view this from the context of the attorney's shoes, we paralegals that is, and that we ask our attorneys to look at this from our view and what we can contribute to the team. One of my attorneys asked me, well, if you celebrate Paralegal Day and I celebrate Paralegal Day for you, when is Attorney's Day? And my response is exactly that. If I've done my job well enough and good enough, you should know that I celebrate Attorney's Day each and every single day. You put your license in my hand with every project that you give me, and I will not betray that trust. This is why I am active on the paralegal leadership skills, why I attend over 30 hours of CLE every 2 months, so that I can protect that license. My last thought before I go home is there anything on my desk that my attorney can get disbarred for? And if there is, we're going to be pulling some overtime. My attorney's response that day, and I have to give him kudos for this, was, "Well played, Alan. Well played. Carry on." So again, I'd like to thank PACO and each of you for allowing me to share in this Paralegal Day with you. And I'd like to thank each of you for your contributions to PACO, the NFPA, and our paralegal profession. It's my honor to be counted among the ranks of each and every one of you. And again, I would like to give thanks to all the attorneys that are present, and we appreciate all that you do for us. But if you happen to want to do a CLE or a webinar, please let me know. I'm responsible for that. So thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. If everybody could go ahead and take your seats, which is really just Vicki. God love her. She's used to me, so it's okay. I know, exactly. Bless my heart. Again, I would like to thank the PR committee and thank our PR chair, Aaron, for a fantastic event. I would also like to thank our executive board, our representatives, our chairs, our co-chairs, our coordinators, and all of our leaders that are here today. I'm making noise. I would also again like to thank our sponsors. Without our sponsors, these fantastic events wouldn't happen. So we appreciate everything that you guys do for us. I would like to thank Anderson Reporting, who's doing our videotaping today. He's also going to make sure that I look 20 pounds lighter. So just a plug for their services, he's going to thin it down, which I can appreciate. I would like to thank Capital University for this fabulous little podium right here. Thank you, Lisa. I would also again like to thank our keynote speaker. Again, Alan is a part-time comedian, full-time paralegal, and a whole lot of crazy. He left that part out in his bio. One of the first things that I'm going to do is I'm going to go through our service awards. I can tell you, looking at the years of experience on here, some of these ladies became paralegals when they were 10. I got you, Vicki. I got you, girl. Don't worry. First, I'd like to recognize two of our members who weren't able to be here. Sarah Brown with 10 years of service and Diane May with 35. That's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And for those who are here, I would ask that you come up when I say your name. And first and foremost, Vicki Babbert, 30 years. She started when she was 10. The next one that I have is Heather Jones. Yeah, you're going to hang out here with me. Heather Jones, 15 years. It's a little bit of an obstacle course to get up here, which is fantastic. That means we packed this room, and that's awesome. So thank you for everyone who came. Christine Lowe, 25 years. Oh, maybe she's not here. Okay. Now I know this young lady's here. Diana Severance, 15 years. Yeah. Hello. Yes, you can. I'll let you. You want the mic? Yeah. Oh, okay. Hang tight. Okay, next one that I have is a young lady who has put our bylaws in check. And let me tell you, that was an adventure. So a big shout out to Brittany Hayes for 15 years of service. It was a feat. It was no joke. Another one of my PACO favorites, Lucinda Miller, 20 years of service. Michelle Goodwin, 10 years of service. You picked a great spot to be easy. That good paralegals playing ahead. And last but certainly not least, our PR chair today, Erin Crayson, for 5 years of service. You may have your award. Okay, Vicki, you can slide behind me. I'm kind of on a leash with this thing. Oh, hi. Oh, yeah, he's flagging me down. Hold tight.
Oh.
We're going to get close.
No, I'll just do it like this. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank PACO. I became a PACO member in 1987 when I first came to Columbus. And, it has been a rewarding experience. I have been able to develop some leadership skills by working with the board. And I was on the board probably the first year after I joined. I was the parliamentarian. Those were the good old days. I've had just been able to, all the meetings have always been educational. I've been able to work with some wonderful paralegals. And the reason I'm doing this is probably going to be my last paralegal day because I'm going to be retiring. And so I just want to thank you for a wonderful experience. It's been great. And I just want to encourage you all to be a part of this group and, develop your leadership skills. Continue to go to the CLEs, continue to come to our monthly meetings, or I guess they're quarterly now. The speakers they line up are just fabulous, and you learn so much. So thank you so much. Thanks.
Hello. Okay. Thank you, Vicki. Good thing I wore that waterproof mascara, people. It might get ugly, I'm just saying. One of the fabulous things that PACO is able to do this year, we were able to give a student scholarship. And I'm going to read a portion of this nomination that we received for this student. Despite a demanding schedule, Sabrina maintains a high GPA in her coursework and consistently displays a demeanor of warmth and integrity. This is no easy feat. In addition, Sabrina has proven to be a valuable board member of the Student Paralegal Association of Columbus State. She has assisted in designing and promoting events to benefit her fellow paralegal students. I had the pleasure of Sabrina being we call her Sabrina 2.0. I'm going to explain that a little bit because we have a Sabrina 1.0 who's here, so we call her 2.0. When you intern with me, you get nicknames. It's part of what happens. But Sabrina was one of our interns for this last semester, and she is a fantastic writer. She is an incredible communicator and just one of the sweetest young ladies. I had the pleasure of meeting her mom and her husband on Saturday. Just all around really good people. So it is with the biggest honor that I have, which I have that check, it's in my purse. I'm realizing when I don't have pockets, it could get dangerous. But I would like to award our student scholarship to Sabrina Morel. all the fun stuff. I mean, let's just be honest. I'm giving out all the awards, so everybody has to like me because I got the good stuff. I got the awards, these fabulous awards, the service awards for everyone. Once you open those up, they are like beautiful pieces of artwork. They're absolutely gorgeous. Thank you to Aaron, who found a fabulous vendor that hooked us up. So, without further ado, I'm going to discuss our awards of excellence. Each year, PACO gives away a Sustaining Member of the Year award. This year is by no exception. This award recognizes outstanding sustaining members for their contributions and commitment to PACO. They provide video services, hint, hint. They attend our events, they are fabulous sponsors, and I'm glad to say they are my friends. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce Anderson Reporting, Gail Anderson and Grace Stannis. If you could please come up. I know. I'm sneaky, aren't I?
Yeah.
I'm like, you guys need to come.
Thank you so much.
You are very welcome. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The next award that we have is the Law Firm / Legal Department of the Year award. This award recognizes a law firm or a legal department for their outstanding contribution and commitment to the legal community and the paralegal profession. I'm going to read a portion of this nomination, and I'm not going to cry. Dang it. I do this every time. I say I'm not going to, but then I do. Polling Law has been a big advocate for PACO and the paralegal profession. This firm not only provides their support, but it welcomes any chance to be involved. This firm has provided space for PACO events and for meetings, and their attorneys are extremely involved in what I do. And from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate that. So, Law Firm of the Year, Polling Law. You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Okay. You know, I try to be like, very strong, this doesn't, really technically I think I'm like a snuggle bear, the little dryer sheet guy. That's what I think I'm in on the inside, because I get mushy and stuff like this. Because this is so important to me, this profession and what all of you bring to the table. I have incredible friends from this, so I really appreciate everything that PACO has given me. And I think that's what comes through when they give me a microphone. Lord have mercy. Okay, I'm gonna apologize in advance because I'm probably gonna cry through this one too. Each year, PACO gives away a Paralegal of the Year award. This award recognizes PACO members who have contributed and expanded the paralegal profession, including contributions to his or her employer, colleagues, and PACO itself. I'm going to read a portion of this person's nomination. She has done a wonderful job with the Public Relations Committee for PACO. Erin has reached out to members to join committees, and I looked at her, and become more... and become more involved with PACO activities. Her work preparing for Paralegal Day is impressive, and I know everyone is excited for today's event. Erin and I have a very special bond. Our friendship actually started through PACO. I went over to a Capital University orientation, and those times when you meet a person who has that bright light and you think, gosh, she's going to be an incredible paralegal. Not only is she an incredible paralegal, she's also one of my best friends. So, without further ado, Paralegal of the Year, Miss Erin Crayson. Sorry about that. I was pretty sure I was going to cry. I love you, honey. Photoshop the tears out. Whew, Lord have mercy. It's so emotional. But I hear the banjo music playing, and I haven't ate lunch yet, so now I'm going to start dancing because my sugar's low, and it's going to get crazy. I'm just kidding. Then they would pull me off. But again, I would like to thank everyone for attending. Thank you to all of the employers and the lawyers that are here supporting the paralegals. We couldn't do it without you, and I'd like to say you can't do it without us too. So, thank you again to everyone for coming today. Fantastic event, beautiful day, and thank you.